height thing?
So I'm just going to introduce everybody who's here. We have Vicki Zaire, who's our senior chemist and plant operator there. And we have our superintendent at the water plant also, Mike Gersher. And we have Matthew Wirtz over here, who is the deputy director of City Utilities Engineering.
We're going to
So,
take you live here in just about a minute.
okay. So just a little bit of an update. There was an accident yesterday where a pole got hit and it did fall on top of some power lines and caused a surge that impacted the plant. And so that was part of what we were working on at that point. So I'm going to have Matthew come up and start to explain that. Feel free to ask questions as you're going, and they're all pretty knowledgeable about what went on. Matthew?
Sure. So you guys will tell me.
Are you taking this live?
Okay.
We're already live on the website.
Okay.
Go ahead.
That's okay? Okay. Well, good morning. Matthew Wirtz with Fort Wayne Utilities. Here to give a brief update. Last night, around 7 p.m., there was an accident involving a vehicle and an I&M power lines that disrupted the power to our drinking water treatment plant. The treatment plant temporarily lost power. We're talking in the milliseconds, but it knocked out our high service pumps, which allowed for distribution pressures to temporarily decrease in certain areas of our system. There'll be 3 areas. At no point did the treatment plant lose treatment ability or capacity, so all water continued to be fully treated. And so we evaluated the system through all of the, we have over 120 square miles of distribution system, so we evaluated with our monitors that are out in the system, as well as our hydraulic model, to come up with 3 areas that, in a precautionary basis, we don't have anything confirmed, where there might be the potential for lower pressures. Once again, the water is treated leaving the treatment plant, but in these low pressure situations, there's potential for contamination to come out of the soils around the water mains or something like that to get into the pipes. We see no indication of that. We've had over 25 samples here through the night. Chlorine residuals are strong. We're seeing no evidence of contamination. We see nothing in our online that's instantaneous monitoring of the system. But out of abundance of caution, we're issuing basically boil water advisories for people in these 3 areas. 1 northwest, 1 in the kind of the southeast area, and then just a small area around the Fort Wayne Airport. So the areas that were identified are, we have instrumentation out in the distribution system that tells us where pressures we're at, as well as at the plant, and then we compare that with our backup systems that are feeding water back into the system when the plant high service pumps lose power temporarily, and it looked like those areas would be the areas where, if there was low pressure, and that's how those boundaries were drawn using our hydraulic model and online systems.
How long this will last?
There's requirements. So one of the first steps we do is notify the Indiana Department of Environmental Management. We always work with them and to identify, to advise them. And then the standard procedure is basically we immediately draw these samples, and it takes 24 hours to get sample results. So in 24 hours, which would be, we're looking at about 2 a.m. tomorrow morning. Correct. So 2 a.m. Saturday morning, we would know that these 3 areas are clear. At the latest, we would have to wait 48 hours, so Sunday morning at 2 a.m.
You said presently this is precautionary. There's nothing to indicate that the water in these areas has been.
That's correct. We have sampling from those areas from through the night. Water maintenance and filtration plant staff were out sampling in those areas. We see no indication it's precautionary.
If there were contamination, what's kind of the effects that might have on people if they were to drink it?
Typically, it's hard to go, but typically if in soil or something like that is a bacteria or something like that. Bacteria is everywhere in our environment, so it'd be something that you would encounter, working with soil or something like that. If it was bacteria, typically would get into your digestive system or something like that. You could upset stomach or nausea, something like that from a bacteria.
So people who are waking up and just seeing this, just as simple as brushing their teeth, they shouldn't do that.
So the boil water advisory would basically say, if you're going to drink the water, boil it. and then you can use it. You can shower, do everything. Brushing your teeth, it'd probably be good to use boiled water or bottled water or something like that. And then your ice makers and those kind of things, you would try to avoid using that here to make sure through this period.
So should they go ahead and empty those this morning?
Yeah, if they felt like their ice maker generated, made ice through the night or something like that, out of caution, it'd be good to do that.
And did you specify where the accident was that caused all this?
I don't have that information. Fairfield Avenue. It was where the vehicle hit the I&M pole that caused this issue.
You mentioned the loss of pressure. What exactly is that result in, as far as what concerns does that cause, losing that resultant pressure?
Sure.
In layman's terms.
Yeah, I'll try that. So we push pressure into the system. So we're creating inside our pipes a pressure that pushes water out to the customers. There's no pumps in every individual customer's house. It's the pressure from our large pumps at the filtration plant that make the pressure inside the pipes anywhere from, we like to keep them 40 to 80 pounds per square inch. So it's a pressure measurement, and so it's always pushing out of the pipe. IDEM has a requirement, the Indiana Department of Environmental Management, if that pressure would get below 20, there's the potential, 20 psi, there's the potential for pressures outside of those pipes to actually push water in or something like that, and then that groundwater or something might have a contaminant in it. So,
any idea how many households this is affecting?
We don't have an exact count, but right now it's about 8%. In terms of area, it's about 8% of our service area, so a fairly small area, but significant.
We've seen, a lot of these are households, but a lot of those down there by the airport, that's manufacturing and things like that. Is it different from if there is any kind of food processing involved in there? They're really in more dire straits than someone who just has to boil a little bit of water to brush their teeth.
Each of those businesses would run on their procedures for their requirements of what they would need to do in these kind of situations. They'd be contacting us if they have questions. Most of them have their own standard operating procedures.
Does it look like any of the hospitals?
We weren't aware of any of the. Yeah, I was going to say.
Not in the affected
Yeah, none of the hospitals were affected by these pressure events.